Right now, there's an ancient technique, over 2,500 years old, that can immediately calm your racing mind and transform anxiety into deep inner peace. This isn't just another meditation trend. It is the same method that freed the Buddha from intense psychological suffering, and it's now being backed by cutting-edge research from places like Harvard, Stanford, and Johns Hopkins. In the next few minutes, you'll understand why your anxiety and negative thoughts aren't your fault. They aren't a weakness, and most importantly, they aren't permanent. You're about to learn the timeless Buddhist wisdom that has helped millions find relief from mental suffering, combined with modern neuroscience that shows how these techniques literally rewire your brain for lasting peace and happiness. For the past decade, I've been diving into the intersection of Buddhist psychology and modern neuroscience. I've been where you are, waking up with a mind already racing, caught in what Buddhists call the monkey mind, jumping from one worry to the next, creating scenarios that feel all too real. I tried everything, but it wasn't until I discovered the depth of Buddhist teachings that everything changed. One of the most powerful techniques for developing this observer consciousness is what I call the thought labeling method. When you notice your mind spinning with worry or negative predictions, instead of trying to fight these thoughts or push them away, simply label them. You might say worry thought like catastrophizing, self-criticism, or future tripping. This labeling process activates the prefrontal cortex, the rational part of your brain, which helps calm down the limbic system where fear and anxiety live. It's like having a wise, compassionate narrator helping you make sense of the chaos in your mind. But awareness alone isn't enough. Once you can observe your thoughts, the next step is learning to question them. This is where cognitive restructuring comes in, but I want to teach you a version that's much more practical and effective than what you might have heard before. Instead of trying to force yourself to think positive thoughts, which often feels fake and doesn't stick, we're going to learn to investigate your thoughts like a detective investigating a case. When you notice an anxious or negative thought, ask yourself these 4 questions. First, is this thought actually true? Not does it feel true, but is there concrete evidence that supports it? Second, is this thought helpful? Even if there's some truth to it, is focusing on this thought moving you toward your goals or away from them? Third, what would I tell a good friend who was having this exact thought? We're often much more compassionate and rational when advising others than when dealing with our own mental chatter. And fourth, what would I do right now if I didn't have this thought? This question helps you identify the action you would take if you weren't paralyzed by anxiety or negative thinking. Let me give you a concrete example. Let's say you're having the thought, I'm going to embarrass myself in tomorrow's meeting, and everyone will think I'm incompetent. Using our 4 questions, is this actually true? Well, you can't predict the future, and you've probably been in meetings before without embarrassing yourself. Is this thought helpful? Definitely not. It's making you more anxious and less likely to perform well. What would you tell a good friend? You'd probably remind them of their past successes, help them prepare for the meeting, and reassure them that even if they make a mistake, it's not the end of the world. What would you do if you didn't have this thought? You'd probably prepare for the meeting in a calm, focused way and trust in your abilities. This process of questioning your thoughts isn't about denying reality or forcing positivity. It's about developing a more balanced, accurate perspective that serves you better. Sometimes when you investigate your thoughts, you might discover that there is some legitimate concern that needs to be addressed. Great. Now you can take constructive action instead of just spinning in worry. Another crucial element of transforming negative thinking is understanding the role of your nervous system in anxiety. When your nervous system is dysregulated, when you're in what we call fight-flight-freeze mode, your brain literally cannot access higher-order thinking. You become reactive instead of responsive, and your thoughts naturally skew toward the negative and catastrophic. This is why breathing techniques, progressive muscle relaxation, and other nervous system regulation practices aren't just feel-good fluff. They're actually essential tools for creating the neurological conditions where clear thinking becomes possible. One of the most effective techniques I've found for nervous system regulation is what I call the physiological sigh. This is a breathing pattern that has been scientifically proven to activate the parasympathetic nervous system, your rest and digest mode, more quickly than any other breathing technique. When you focus on your breath with complete presence, you're literally stepping out of the stream of anxious thoughts and into what Buddhists call the eternal now. Here's how to practice it. Sit comfortably and close your eyes. Bring your attention to the sensation of breathing at your nostrils. Don't try to control your breath, just observe it naturally. When your mind wanders to anxious thoughts, and it will, simply notice where it went without judgment, and gently bring your attention back to the breath. This isn't about stopping thoughts, it's about changing your relationship with them. In Buddhist terms, you're learning to become the witness of your mind rather than being trapped inside it. Modern neuroscience shows us exactly what's happening in your brain when you do this practice. Dr. Sarah Lazar at Harvard found that just 8 weeks of mindfulness meditation literally increases the thickness of your prefrontal cortex, the area responsible for emotional regulation, and decreases the size of your amygdala, the brain's alarm center that triggers anxiety. You're not just calming your mind temporarily, you're permanently rewiring your brain's stress response system. Now let's explore one of the most profound Buddhist concepts for dealing with negative thoughts, the understanding of impermanence, or anicca. The Buddha taught that everything in existence is in constant flux. Your thoughts, your emotions, your physical sensations, even your sense of self. When you're caught in anxiety, it feels permanent and all-consuming. But the truth is, it's just another temporary experience arising and passing away in the vast space of your awareness. Try this practice right now. When you notice an anxious thought or feeling, instead of fighting it or feeding it with more thoughts, simply observe it and silently say, "This too shall pass." Watch how the thought or feeling changes, shifts, or dissolves on its own when you stop giving it the fuel of your attention and resistance. This practice, known in Buddhism as noting, helps you realize that you are not your thoughts. You are the awareness in which thoughts appear and disappear. The Buddhist concept of non-self, or anatta, is perhaps the most revolutionary insight for understanding anxiety. Most of your anxiety comes from defending and protecting what you believe to be yourself, your reputation, your future security, your self-image, your relationships. But the Buddha discovered something remarkable. What we think of as our self is actually just a collection of ever-changing thoughts, emotions, sensations, and perceptions. There's no solid, permanent self that needs defending. When you really understand this at a deep level, most of your anxiety simply evaporates because there's no one there to be anxious. This doesn't mean you become passive or uncaring. It means you stop taking every thought and emotion so personally. You begin to see them as natural phenomena, like weather patterns in the sky of your consciousness. Let me teach you a powerful Buddhist meditation called loving kindness, or metta, which is specifically designed to transform negative mental states. Anxiety is often rooted in fear, and fear is the opposite of love. When you cultivate genuine loving kindness, first toward yourself and then toward others, you're creating an internal environment where anxiety simply cannot survive. Start by sitting quietly and bringing to mind an image of yourself as a small child. Feel genuine warmth and compassion toward this innocent being, and silently repeat these traditional phrases. May I be happy. May I be healthy. May I be peaceful. May I be free from suffering. Really feel the intention behind these words. Notice how your entire nervous system relaxes when you offer yourself this unconditional kindness. Now extend these same wishes to someone you love. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you be peaceful. May you be free from suffering. Then to a neutral person, someone you neither particularly like nor dislike. Finally, and this is where the real transformation happens, extend loving kindness even to someone you have difficulty with. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you be peaceful. May you be free from suffering. What's happening here is profound. You're training your mind to default to love instead of fear, to compassion instead of judgment, to connection instead of separation. Research by Dr. Barbara Fredrickson at the University of North Carolina shows that loving kindness meditation literally strengthens your vagus nerve, which is responsible for your relaxation response, while simultaneously boosting positive emotions and reducing anxiety. The Buddha taught something called the middle way, which is crucial for dealing with anxiety. Most people swing between two extremes when they're anxious. Either they completely avoid situations that make them uncomfortable, or they force themselves through anxiety while fighting against it internally. Both approaches create more suffering. The middle way teaches us to neither avoid our discomfort nor be overwhelmed by it, but to find the balanced path of gentle, persistent engagement with our experience. When anxiety arises, instead of trying to get rid of it or being consumed by it, you can practice what's called surfing the wave. Imagine your anxiety as an ocean wave. It has a beginning, middle, and end. Your job isn't to stop the wave, but to surf it skillfully. Feel where the anxiety manifests in your body. Breathe into that space with compassion and ride the wave until it naturally subsides. Every time you do this, you're building what Buddhists call equanimity, the ability to remain centered in the midst of changing circumstances. One of the most practical Buddhist teachings for daily life is the practice of mindful awareness throughout your day. Instead of living on autopilot, caught up in mental chatter and emotional reactivity, you can train yourself to be present with whatever is happening right now. When you're washing dishes, really feel the warm water and soap bubbles. When you're walking, feel your feet touching the ground. When you're talking to someone, be fully present with them instead of preparing what you're going to say next. This practice transforms anxiety because anxiety exists in the gap between now and later, between what is and what we fear might happen. When you're truly present, anxiety has no place to exist. The Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh teaches that the present moment is the only moment available to us, and it is the door to all moments. Every moment of presence is a moment of freedom from anxiety. Buddhist psychology recognizes something called the hungry ghost realm, beings who have enormous appetites but tiny mouths, representing the futility of trying to fill inner emptiness with external things. Much of our anxiety comes from this hungry ghost mentality, constantly seeking security, approval, pleasure, or control from the external world to feel okay internally. The Buddha's solution is radical. Find completeness within yourself, independent of external circumstances. This doesn't mean becoming passive or uncaring about your life. It means finding your center of peace and then acting from that place of inner fullness, rather than from fear and lack. When you're not dependent on external outcomes for your sense of well-being, you can engage with life fully while remaining internally free. Let me share with you the Buddhist practice of just sitting, or shikantaza in Japanese Zen. This is perhaps the most direct method for working with anxiety and negative thoughts. Unlike concentration meditation, where you focus on a specific object like the breath, in just sitting you simply sit with whatever is present in your awareness without trying to change, fix, or improve anything. Sit in a comfortable but alert position and simply be present with whatever arises. Thoughts, emotions, sensations, sounds. Don't follow the thoughts into their stories, but don't push them away either. Just let everything be exactly as it is. This practice teaches you the most profound lesson. You don't need to manage your inner experience to be okay. You can be okay with whatever is present. When you truly understand this, anxiety loses its power over you because anxiety is essentially resistance to your present moment experience. When you stop resisting, when you stop trying to control your internal weather, you find the peace that was always there underneath the storm. The Buddhist concept of beginner's mind, or shoshin in Japanese, is incredibly powerful for dealing with habitual patterns of anxious thinking. Beginner's mind means approaching each moment with fresh eyes, as if encountering it for the first time. When you're stuck in anxiety, you're usually operating from old conditioning, seeing present situations through the lens of past experiences and future fears. Practice approaching your anxiety with beginner's mind. Instead of thinking, "Oh no, here's that familiar anxiety again," try experiencing it as if for the first time. What does it actually feel like in your body? What thoughts are actually present? How does your breathing change? When you investigate your anxiety with genuine curiosity instead of fear and aversion, you often discover it's not as solid or threatening as you believed. Buddhist teachings emphasize the importance of right speech, which includes how you speak to yourself internally. Most people have what we might call wrong speech in their self-talk, harsh criticism, catastrophic predictions, harsh judgments. This internal dialogue creates and maintains anxiety. Practice speaking to yourself the way a loving parent would speak to a frightened child, with patience, understanding, and encouragement. When you catch yourself in negative self-talk, pause and ask, is this thought helpful? Is it true? Is it kind? If the answer is no to any of these questions, gently redirect your attention to more wholesome thoughts or simply return to present moment awareness. The practice of dana or generosity might seem unrelated to anxiety, but it's actually one of the most powerful antidotes to fear-based thinking. Anxiety is fundamentally about scarcity, fear that there won't be enough time, resources, love, or security. Generosity is the practice of abundance, giving freely from the understanding that there's enough to go around. This doesn't necessarily mean giving money, though that can be part of it. You can practice generosity by giving your full attention to someone who's speaking, offering a genuine smile to a stranger, or simply sending loving thoughts to people you encounter throughout your day. Every act of generosity shifts your consciousness from scarcity to abundance, from fear to love. Buddhist wisdom teaches us about the three jewels, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Buddha represents your own awakened nature, the part of you that is already free from suffering. Dharma represents the teachings and practices that lead to freedom. Sangha represents community, the understanding that we're all in this together. Anxiety often makes us feel isolated and separate, but remembering that you're part of the larger human family can be incredibly healing. Find or create a community of people who are also committed to spiritual growth and mental well-being. Share your struggles without shame, support others in their journey, and remember that seeking help is actually a sign of wisdom, not weakness. The Buddha himself had a Sangha, a community of practitioners who supported each other on the path to awakening. The practice of mindful consumption is crucial in our modern world. Buddhism teaches us to be aware of what we're feeding our minds through our senses. If you're constantly consuming anxious news, violent entertainment, or engaging in gossip and negativity, you're literally feeding the mental states you want to transform. Practice consuming media, food, and experiences that nourish peace, wisdom, and compassion. One of the most profound Buddhist practices for anxiety is the contemplation of death. This might seem morbid, but it's actually deeply liberating. When you truly accept that this life is temporary, that everything you're worried about will eventually be gone, you gain tremendous perspective on what's actually important. Most of your anxieties are about protecting things that are ultimately impermanent anyway. This practice doesn't make you passive or depressed, it makes you more alive and present, because you're not wasting precious life energy on trivial worries. As the Buddhist saying goes, death is not the opposite of life, but a part of it. When you make friends with impermanence, you can live more fully in each moment. The Buddhist understanding of karma is often misunderstood in the West, but it's actually a very practical teaching for anxiety. Karma simply means that actions have consequences, and that includes mental actions like thoughts and attitudes. Every moment you choose presence over anxiety, compassion over judgment, wisdom over reactivity, you're creating positive karma that makes it easier to choose these beneficial states in the future. You're literally training your mind like you would train a muscle. Each repetition of mindful awareness, each moment of choosing love over fear, is strengthening your capacity for inner peace. This is why consistency in practice is more important than intensity. Better to meditate for 10 minutes daily than for 2 hours once a week. As we bring this journey to a close, I want you to understand the ultimate teaching of Buddhism regarding anxiety and suffering. Your true nature is already free. You don't need to become someone different or achieve some special state. You simply need to recognize what you already are, beneath the layers of conditioning, thought patterns, and emotional reactivity. The anxiety you experience is like clouds passing through the sky. The clouds are temporary and constantly changing, but the sky itself, your essential awareness, remains vast, open, and undisturbed. You are the sky, not the clouds. No matter how stormy the weather in your mind, Your true nature remains untouched and free. This recognition doesn't come through intellectual understanding alone, but through direct experience, cultivated through practice. Every time you meditate, every moment of mindfulness, every act of compassion toward yourself and others is clearing away the clouds and revealing the clear sky of your true nature. The path to freedom from anxiety isn't about achieving some perfect state where you never feel uncomfortable emotions. It's about finding the peace that exists in the very heart of imperfection, the love that embraces all of life's experiences, including the difficult ones. It's about discovering that you can be okay with not being okay, that you can find stillness in the midst of movement, and that you can trust the unfolding of your life even when you can't control the outcomes. Remember, the Buddha was once as lost and suffering as anyone. He wasn't born enlightened. He found his way through practice, patience, and perseverance, just like you can. Every step you take on this path, no matter how small, is valuable. Every moment of awareness, every breath taken mindfully, every thought observed without judgment, is moving you toward the freedom that is your birthright. The teachings I've shared with you today aren't just concepts to understand intellectually. They're invitations to direct experience. Start where you are, use what resonates with you, and be patient with the process. The path to liberation from anxiety and negative thoughts isn't a destination you arrive at, but a way of being you cultivate moment by moment, breath by breath, with great compassion for yourself and all beings who share this human experience of seeking peace in an uncertain world. May you find the courage to face your fears with an open heart. May you discover the wisdom that's always been within you. May you experience the profound peace that comes from aligning with your true nature, and may all beings everywhere be free from suffering and find lasting happiness. This is not just a wish, but the natural result of walking the ancient path of awakening that the Buddha illuminated for all humanity.